morning, friends. It's Catherine and Brian from Moonstar Lodge up in Tiny in central Ontario. It's a very humid day, so I have fuzz head and I have fuzz brain a little bit too. I have been doing readings for money, as meaning professionally, since I was 17 and I'm 64. Prior to that, I started tea leaf reading at 9 and was always psychically gifted from infancy. This is not a boast, it's just what is. So I had to deal with this because I had a brain tumor as a teenager and went into parapsychology and psychology to understand the nature of this. And when I hit university in the 70s, this was the beginning of the use of electronic equipment other than tape recorders to begin to assess the brain, the mind, and all of these things. And I went on and did postgraduate work and went into professional associations like Metascience and George Meek, developing instrumentation. So I have lived through an explosion of instrumentation to connect with Source. But it comes back to experience, it comes back to mindfulness, and it comes back to being as purely connected to Source as possible when you're trying to download information. To that end, in preparation for this video, I actually had Brian assist me. He doused some cards, which decks to use, just to make sure that I could bring you the best reading today possible, because it is wild energy. On this new moon weekend, which is August 8th, we also have occurring at the same time the Lionsgate portal. So that happens on the 8th of the 8th. The Lionsgate portal is an unusual thinning of the veil. We're not downloading ancestor energy as much as the focus of spirit energy from Source. And what I mean by that is it's the alignment or the rising we see in the skies. If you look like an astronomer would look at the skies, the rising and alignment of Sirius, planet Sirius. And this was a signal to the ancient Egyptians of the pending of the flooding of the Nile, so they could do ceremony for potential harvest. But the ancients always looked at this rising of Sirius, and it's the closest that the Earth and this alignment aligns us with the Orion belt, and Orion, of course, is an Egyptian deity. The number 8 in numerological circles is a very stable number. It's about foundation. It's also the symbol of affinity, if you think of the number 8. So with the thinning of the veil, it's not so much we're going to connect with granddad and grandma and people like that, but we are actually going to connect with our spiritual predecessors. To that end, when I get to the cards, you're going to see something very different in terms of the layout of the cards and the cards that I'm using. I'm using primarily very ancient archetypal decks. I'm using the Splendor Solace Tarot, which has the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah goes back Israeli Jewish kingdoms to the Babylonians and the Anunnaki. I'm using an Egyptian Lenormand by a doctor who is proficient in this. I'm using my Isis Oracle because I have a deep bond with the spirit being of Isis. And I'm using a deck that I don't normally use, the Galactic Heritage cards. We doused which of all the various astrological cards I should be using. Excuse me, and that was the grouping. So it's not laid out in a medicine wheel. It's laid out in 4 different types of cards with 4 very specific messages. We're posting this a couple of days ahead of the Lionsgate portal and new moon to give you time to prepare. And this energy now becomes the energy that runs through the week. So this is not just our new moon and Lionsgate. This is our weekly reading. So there will be no other readings. This energy applies to the next 2 weeks until the full moon, which is a blue moon, which is the 4th full moon in a season. It's a wild time. This rising of Sirius is also demarking the middle of the summer. Now I want to shift from ancient teachings like that and bring it back to what my people talk about in indigenous culture. And I'd like to bring your attention to the medicine wheel. And here we are. There's the 9th full moon. And so in the indigenous culture, we also have this demarking the middle of summer. And so now we are shifting. So the 9th full moon relates to the grandmother, setting sun woman. And setting sun woman is the keeper of tomorrow's dreams and goals, the guardian of the needs of the next 7 generations, the mother of the proper use of will to live, will to survive, and willpower, the keeper of Mother Earth's resources, and the guardian of preservation. Because it's harvest, we're moving. We've had our early harvest on August 2nd. Now we're moving into the time of gathering and preparing for winter. She teaches us how to preserve and use our resources without wasting anything. How to prepare for tomorrow by planning today, making and meeting goals. She shows us how concern, dependability, and compassion matter through the ways that we live. How to properly use our wills, using our intents to provide the future generations and to provide for the future generations. She teaches us how to live the truth. So her time frame starts August 8th at 9:50 a.m. So it's an early zenith to this new moon. We are coming out, if you will recall, from the time of She Who Heals. So we are healing into a paradigm where our will is now cleansed of things that don't serve us, hopefully. And we are now looking ahead, not too far ahead, because we're not meant to live in the future. We're living in the moment. We're taking our moment by moment direction, knowing that what we are doing in the moment will serve us in the future, particularly as we prepare for winter coming. The full moon is on August 22nd. And again, it's this blue moon, and I'm just going to check if it's a super, no, it's the blue moon is the 3rd full moon in a season with 4 full moons. So it is a blue moon. It's not a perigee, it's not a micro, but it is a significant moon. So we have basically, this is a reading for the week, but really 2 weeks into the full moon and accommodating this Lionsgate portal. So let's flip to the cards, Brian, and we will talk through this. So this first line of cards here is the Splendor Solis Tarot. These are the Isis cards over here. These are the Galactic Heritage cards. And these are the Lenormand cards from the Egyptian Lenormand. And technically, when I pulled them, I pulled the Lenormand to clarify these cards. So, you know, if I had enough space on this table, because these are all really big cards, I would have pulled them down here in alignment. But this will make sense regardless of where they're positioned. So I'm going to start with this deck here. I actually may pull this into a special video, not so much an unboxing video, clearly I don't need to unbox it, but to compare and contrast astrological video, in an astrological deck video, the kinds and types of cards that are out there. So this is a tarot, all right? So what is the very first card of this reading is the Two of Swords. It is the alchemy of the Two of Swords and the zodiac of sparkling air. Now we know Two of Swords is, typically speaking, a woman on her knees at the beach or in the desert with two swords crossed across her and a blindfold, either refusing to see or taking time to see. And because of this Lion's Gate, I would suggest that is the latter, that she is taking time to see. We all need to take time to see what's manifesting, but not sit back passively. Now, this card is the alchemy of the Four of Cups, which is a very positive, it's a journey of victory. If you normally remember, the Four of Cups is people celebrating with 4 poles and laurels. This is referred to as Jupiter of the starry water. This card is the alchemy of the Ace of Cups. So we're sitting back, we're contemplating, we're purposely refusing to use the swords, which are air and mental energy. We're refusing not to overthink. We're waiting to see. And in fact, this brings us celebration and victory and a new emotional beginning. So this is the point of starry water. And I'm going to come back to this phrase, the point of starry water, in a few minutes. And what this gives us is alchemy of the Nine of Pentacles. And this is the moon of golden earth. So what that tells us is it gives us, with all this connection with Sirius and the spiritual sun, which, if you remember, that's what Sirius is during this Lion's Gate, it manifests in bounty. That's the Nine of Pentacles, is the end of a cycle, and we end up with a bountiful harvest, let's call it that, because we're in the time of harvest. But I'm not talking necessarily just a physical harvest of our gardens and overripe tomato plants and that sort of thing. I'm talking about all the ways that we need to manifest growth and stability as we move into the winter. So this is a highly charged, very careful reading, and I'm very impressed with this. So the next cards I pulled were from the Isis Oracle. And just talking about Isis, I get what's called a parasympathetic nervous system response, where I feel all my chakras in alignment, I get a chatter, my teeth will jam shut, and my jaw will lock. So if that happens while I'm talking, please know where that's coming from. I'm not having a seizure or something. So the 4 cards that talk to what Isis is a powerful female goddess. She was considered the original physician. She brought her husband, Osiris, back to life from the dead. She was capable of the kinds of ascended master capabilities of the Mary Magdalenes, Jesus, those kinds of very advanced souls. So she brings us the first card, which is the Pillar of Light. And this is telling us that that Isis is coming to us through the Lion's Gate as a star. So this is the descent of the star of Isis. So she is going to meet us on our own turf. That's what the Lion's Gate does. It opens up this very big portal. And I neglected to mention that the Giza Plateau holds the Sphinx and all the major pyramids. Pyramids are considered resonance chambers because underneath the pyramids, we know that there are high levels, not just of limestone from which they are built, but quartz crystal, and they used those for sound healing resonance. And there are many wonderful, good archaeological videos on YouTube that you can go and find. Search out Gregg Braden and people of that ilk that will show you the remnants of these big quartz resonance chambers. But this whole Giza Plateau contains so much more than that, including chambers under the Sphinx, which show the 108 cartouches from which the original tarot were created from. But Isis is bringing her healing. Remember, she's the great physician. She's bringing her healing and her light through Lion's Gate portal. And this is a balance in time of past life, present power. So she's bringing us memories when we sit in contemplation of the many spiritual faces that we carry and what gifts we have from the past life. If you don't play piano in this life, but you played piano in another lifetime, you may find yourself, if you do this correctly, this Lion's Gate thing, being able to sit down and pluck out quite a wonderful tune. This is where we have a capacity in parapsychology. It's physical gifts coming forward, and regression can do that. Prayer can do that. Meditation can do that. So we can have automatic art, automatic writing, automatic music, all kinds of things which are channeled as gifts. So you're unlocking a gift from a previous life. Now, she is suggesting that we use the temple of Lapis Lazuli, the goddess of ancient skies. So here's the Lapis Lazuli on this card. It's marked with stars and such. And I brought my lapis wand forward because that's very important to me. Lapis is the stone that we need to be using over the next 2 weeks. Sometimes people write and ask what stones. Sodalite is also part of the lapis. They're chemically the same. It's just sodalite exists in Canada. You can harvest it. But lapis and sodalite, it was so important to the Romans that they made sarcophagi from it, and huge aspects. It's a bit soft, so they couldn't build temples from it. But this is the stone that connects us to the stars right now. So she's giving us very practical information here. And then the last thing is this knot of iris. This is the energetic stabilization with the buckle of the beloved. So this is not an ankh, but it is the knot of Isis. So this is something you can draw, you can create out of a piece of fabric, like a closure. So this is a very interesting line of information here. She's coming through to us as the pillar of light through the Lion's Gate, bringing knowledge of our past lives and gifts from our past lives, suggesting that we get out our lapis lazuli and wear it. If it's jewelry, hold it, carry it in a medicine bag to connect with the star people. because the stars are very important here. This is about the ancient skies, and to focus on the knot of Isis. Okay? So now I get to this Egyptian Lenormand. Clarifying. I'm going to bring this. The first card is stars. We have stars here. We have the moon of golden earth. We have the point of starry water and the Jupiter of starry water. So stars are ancestors in indigenous culture, as well as revered for being the same, the place of the ancestors in Egyptian culture. So this is a time to get out there, outside, and look at the stars. It's fortuitous in Lenormand. It's a wonderful card. The next card here is activation. So clearly this information coming through, as well as the Lion's Gate and Sirius being the spiritual sun, is a time of activation. This is the Eye of Horus, and in fact this is the back of these cards as well, but this is an important card. Okay, the next is the letter. Letter denotes communication, not necessarily in the form of a letter, but in this case it's communication, and it's going to be communication from these ancestors. Okay, this is where we're going with that. And finally, the anchor card is stability. All of this brings stability. While the veil is thin, some people find it very overwhelming, a little bit too energetic. So it's a time to journal. And that's part of this card too. It's a time to journal. It's a time to just don't do, simply be. Be and receive. The Lion's Gate portal is an opportunity to receive, the same as Setting Sun Woman. Now, these cards are unusual. If you can get a hold of a deck, I suggest you do. I'm just going to move this card down for a moment. The first card, and these are, again, the Galactic Heritage cards. So the first one is card number 10. It's an energy transmission, and it's from Arcturus. And this is a parallel Rorschach style image. The energy transmission is a little bit complex. The Arcturians always existed to seed the earth, to bring energy, to keep us well. When there were floods, they helped to abate them. But their prime purpose is well, let me get the book. It's unconditional love is what they're talking about. But it says the Arcturus energy exists with its polarities totally balanced. Because one polarity isn't stronger than another, its energy appears very gentle. But don't let that gentleness fool you. The power of balanced energy can dramatically open your heart and mind when you connect with it. When you feel the need for balance, call on the Arcturus energy to guide you. So although it appears to be a polarity, it is about bringing unconditional love. This is also a parallel energy, alienness. What it's trying to balance for us is not just unconditional love for others, but within ourselves. This alienness card relates to how we often feel. We feel separate. We are not separate from anything. There is no them, no us and them. We are all one. But it's very common in the human third dimensional condition to feel separate, alone, not loved, unheard, unseen. And the Arcturian energy here is about saying, whoa, that's something, that's a veil, that's a false mask you're placing on yourself. This Zeta Reticuli card is about enlightenment. So if you allow if you journal, if you allow yourself to receive, you're creating enlightenment for the future. And the final card in this spread is the Cetacean Dolphin. Again, it's a parallel card. It's bringing forgiveness and gratitude. These animals communicate at a level humans can't even understand. They and killer whales, which are related to dolphins rather than whales, they're the only other species on the planet that communicates with vibration and sound beyond what humans can hear and function at. There's a consciousness that equates them to this dimension. I consider this when there are so many possible warning cards. You know, we have tarot, we have oracles, we have Lenormand, and these cards don't allow for any BS. But we got great cards here. Just a couple of warning cards. This card cannot become. So the Two of Swords, this sense of if you remember Two of Swords, the woman is kneeling with a blindfold and crossed swords as if she's stepping back from a decision. That shouldn't become that sense of alienation. Okay, don't let that happen. We have so many forces open and available to us. Not just these forces in Lionsgate, but the force of Setting Sun Woman. It's an incredible second half of this summer. I, for one, am going to really focus on this. In fact, we've announced that we're taking a few weeks of vacation and family time because we haven't seen Aunt Jenny in a year and a half due to the pandemic. But we're also focusing gently and quietly and letting it come to us from these beings, from Source, what it is we're supposed to do in the next few months. But we're receiving this energy. We're not trying to push the river and make things happen. So if you want to pop it back to me there, thanks, Brian. This is extraordinarily powerful and, as I said at the beginning, an extremely unusual video. I welcome your comments. In fact, we need your comments. We need you to like or dislike this video if you didn't like it. We need you to subscribe because of the algorithms of Google and YouTube. It allows our video to be seen by more people if you do that. Your interaction with us is helpful because it guides the direction we take these in. Now, even though we're going to be taking some time off into September, we're still going to be providing videos and we're still going to be doing the work of spirit because I can't not. I took holy vows to do that and we are doing that. So I wish you well. I'm excited for this next couple of weeks and we will talk again over the next few days. And please remember, I have short daily readings on Instagram. So you can always pop on there and see those little short 3-4 minute videos that cover a couple of days at a time. And I wish you well, and we both wish you well, and great blessings. Aho, Miigwech.